Alright, so what this is a Stromberg-Carlson model TC-10H, aka the Manhattan. This is my first porthole set. Porthole sets are where the picture is completely round instead of like these where they mask it off. Now, the picture is rectangular, so if you want to expand it out to make full use of the round picture tube, what they're really doing is stretching out the picture to fill this round area, and the corners are get cut off. So imagine you're watching like a ball game and the score's down here, it'll just be off the screen completely. So I think that's why not too many manufacturers opted for this. Zenith most notably made the whole line of porthole TVs even into the early 50s. Stromberg, this is the only Times porthole set they made, and as far as I know they did not make very many of these. I've never seen one for sale before. If you Google this model number, you're only going to find one page that even mentions this set, and that lucky guy actually found one of these in its original box, unopened since 1949 when these were made. And I suggest you Google that if you're interested, because the pictures of it are fantastic. It's like a time capsule. The chassis is just gleaming silver, not a speck of dust on it. It's beautiful. Unlike this, which the brass has gotten nice and grungy. Luckily, I have most of the knobs, but there is one missing from here, which is actually not a knob, it's a push button. Kind of a neat feature on this set. This was called the opera glass button. What this would do is you push it in and it would take the image in the center of the screen and enlarge it to fill the whole screen like a magnifying glass or a pair of opera glasses, I guess they wanted to say. Classy. And that's what Stromberg-Carlson was known for. Kind of classy, higher end models. This was made in New York. And beyond that, actually all these controls are kind of unusual. There's a kind of odd cluster of knobs here, and the channel is really weird. For one, it doesn't clunk when you tune it, it's just continuously rotates, and the channels are spaced kind of odd. It's hard to try to read this, but 2, 3, 4, 5, and their dots corresponding to the channels. Well, the spaces between these dots is not uniform. Well, that's because this is kind of like an FM radio dial, and the spacing between channels 2, 3, 4, 5 is not the same. There are some gaps in the frequency, so these dots are further apart or closer together. I'll pop the top off and show you how they actually accomplish that with a rather unique tuning mechanism. Alrighty, I've got the cover off. For being made by a company that was known for making higher end stuff, the top of this cabinet is kind of cheap. Or maybe they had to make it thin because it's curved. It looks like it's steamed and bent plywood, and then it was veneered. Well, a lot of the veneers coming up. Not surprisingly, they had to bend the veneer over a pretty tight radius, and then they cut vent holes, so gee, the veneer popped up where the vent holes come close to that tight radius. But only on the back edge of each side, so a little glue and clamping here, glue and clamping here, and then refinish the whole thing. Out on this one too, and then should be in good shape. Don't have to refinish the front because it's some type of metal, or I'm not sure what it is, but I'll just leave it alone. Now for the chassis, quite unusual to say the least. Let's see, cadmium plated as usual. Well, some nice green corrosion. I imagine it'll polish it nice. So we've got a lower tier, we have an upper tier. Power transformer, rectifiers, picture tube, and then and a couple tubes sticking out here at a right angle, and then there's the main stuff up here. This would be the tuning section, and this might be audio over here, and high voltage inside this box. Now, here's the tuning mechanism I wanted to show you. So let's get this continuous tuning as you rotate this big knob down here. That's fed via a belt and a pulley, which drives this shaft, connected to gears, which are move two brass plates up and down, which are attached to another plate that has several tuning slugs attached to it that plunge down into coils below. So when you rotate this, you see the whole riser goes up and down, just moving in about 6 tuning slugs up and down, which tunes the stations in. Quite unusual, quite bizarre, and fortunately I've heard they are a colossal pain in the ass if they're not working when you get it, if you have to make any adjustments to it. So I'll keep my fingers crossed that it is working without me needing to go anywhere near it or make any tweaks to it. I have not tested the picture tube, so I'm going to drag out my tester and check it out. I took a few moments to clean off the picture tube, and now I can see that it is a Sylvania. I don't see a number anywhere, but I'm sure it's a 10 PP4. That's a standard 10-inch picture tube of the late 40s. And that's what the schematic calls for in the set. I've got it hooked up to my Sencor CR70 tester. But before I test it, I don't think I mentioned where I actually got this, just that I got up early. Well, the reason I got up early was to go to an estate sale on the southwest side of Chicago. Wasn't that far away, but in rush hour, just going 15 miles can take you a good hour, hour and a half. So I wanted to make sure I got up plenty early, because usually estate sales like this one, it's first come, first serve. When you get there, they have you sign in, and when the allotted time comes around, 9 a.m. in this case, they let people come in, and usually batches of 5 people or so. Because it was an estate sale, that all the contents of the house were for sale. The owner had passed away, and sometimes things can get pretty ugly with people fighting over items and grabbing and pushing and shoving and whatnot. But I was lucky in this case, actually. I was delightfully surprised. Everybody there was a good 20 years older than me. They had no interest in any of the vintage electronics. I just went right in there, picked it up, it was mine, no hassle. They also had a bunch of other electronics. I got a feeling that the owner still had every radio and TV that he ever bought in his entire life. So he had this, and I also had one of these, which is a 1950 Philco, but in that case it was in mahogany, whereas I have the blonde. It was only 30 bucks, and they really wanted me to take it because they really were anxious to clear out the house, but I've got too many TVs as it is, and I don't want to hoard this stuff any more than I already am. I just really hope somebody grabs it and it doesn't get thrown away. And from then on, there were about 5 or 6 more TVs going to the 50s into the 60s. I think there was a mid-50s Admiral console, a mid-60s Zenith color set, and so on. And then a bunch of radios. But this was the only thing I really wanted. And the price was very, very reasonable, so I brought it home. Alright, on to the CRT testing. Time for the usual drill. Turn it on. Filament set. Set the filament voltage to the red line, or 6.3 volts. Check for shorts on the cathode. Shorts on the grid. Good. And now the all-important emission. And as usual, we use old CRTs that haven't been used in 60 years. Start out weak and slowly start climbing. I will pause the camera for a while and resume when hopefully this is reading in a good range. It's been about half an hour and things are looking really good. I'm right up there in the green good range, so I've got myself a good picture tube. Still plenty of other things that could be wrong. I haven't checked anything else out yet. Power transformer, high voltage stuff, and so on. But yeah, one item on the checklist is good. No, I am not going to power up either one of these sets. This one, because I know it's in kind of rough shape. And this set, because it's a bit rare and it's an unusual design that I'm not familiar with, and I don't want to chance anything. I'm not even sure what the safest way would be to power this up to see if it is okay or not. So I'm afraid that is all I've got for you guys tonight. I hope you enjoyed these videos.